Hey guys, it's Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. I'm Doug.
I'm Stacy.
And I'm Shannon.
Today we're hanging out at Baker Creek and we're going to take you guys through their greenhouse where they're actually growing tomatoes, and we're going to talk to you guys about some of the reasons why they do it and show you some of the crops that they have going on in here.
And some tips and tricks about preventing pests and some health benefits and some lot of cool nuggets today.
So thanks for joining us today in our greenhouses. We love to grow tomatoes in greenhouses. It's really helped us to keep our pest and disease pressure way down. We grow an incredible diversity of tomatoes here at Baker Creek, and just in general, there's an impressive diversity of tomatoes in the world. Thousands of varieties, really. So
thousands, yeah. So many cool tomatoes.
Yep, so just in every shape, size, and color you can imagine. We have a pretty incredible selection just in this greenhouse alone. And we really, in this hot, humid climate in Missouri, sometimes keeping your conditions just under the right conditions to produce a perfect tomato can be a challenge. So the greenhouse is helping us to control the elements a bit and make for a more uniform crop.
All right, so let's talk about how you utilize the cattle panel and how you're keeping them up, and just all about it, how you've situated the cattle panel. Let's talk about that.
Right, so tomatoes need support, so we use a cattle panel and a T-post to keep them upright. We have clips, these little plastic clips, and they help to actually keep the plant fastened to the cattle panel.
Well, where can people get those clips from?
They're very widely available on the internet.
And do they have a name?
Tomato clips.
Tomato clips, okay.
So we keep our cattle panel just about a foot off the ground, and you want to always promote airflow when you're growing tomatoes. One of the greatest causes of diseases with tomatoes is excess moisture on the leaves, which is why we have it in a greenhouse, and poor airflow. So what we do is we do quite a bit of pruning. We pull off our suckers. See, we have our tomatoes are really nice single stem form here, and this allows us to really have the kind of airflow that's going to dry off the leaves. They're not going to stay wet and promote fungus. So this is really helping us to have a disease-free, healthy crop. And a lot of folks don't realize they want to try to treat the symptoms, but really it's a preventative measure of keeping your plants in the optimal condition. And so reducing excess moisture is important. So for those who don't know what a sucker is, the tomato stem that's coming up right between this branch angle. So we just pull that right out. That helps to reduce crowding with the plants, because they can become very crowded if you don't pull those suckers.
And you basically want the fruit, so that's what we're working
You're getting
for.
more light to the fruits, and you're reducing the stagnant air on the plants.
Right.
So another reason that we like to grow tomatoes in the greenhouse is we can really control the moisture. Excess moisture on the foliage is really a major cause of disease.
And
so
light and yeah, they do not like to get wet.
They don't like to get wet, so we concentrate our moisture right at the root system, and the only place that the plant really wants the moisture. So we have a drip system running along here. It's a really economical and environmentally friendly way to water your plants, because you reduce evaporation, you're giving the plants the water right where they need it, and not a lot of water loss to evaporation or to waste. It's not getting wasted on the foliage and therefore making the plants diseased. So we use a drip system, we have our cattle panels, and by being in the greenhouse we're reducing any excess moisture from the outside.
And how often with the watering, I know tomatoes don't like to just give a little water, they like to get a good soaking, don't they? So how often are you watering your tomatoes?
We're watering our tomatoes about once a day, once every 2 days, with a long, deep water, and that's great for if you ever experience blossom end rot with a tomato. This plant doesn't have it, but sometimes you'll notice that your tomato, right where the blossom was, it'll start to look like a bit rotted. Blossom end rot it's caused by calcium deficiency, but oftentimes it's not that your soil is truly deficient in calcium, it's that you've got inconsistent watering happening, and when the watering is inconsistent, your tomato plant is unable to take up the calcium that's right there in the soil. So with a good, long, deep watering consistently, your plant isn't stressing out, it's able to take up the calcium that's in the soil, and you don't get that nasty blossom end rot. So that's a very common issue with tomatoes. I get calls about it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. It's inconsistent watering. So there's an incredible diversity when it comes to tomatoes. We've got our big, fat slicers in, this is a Ponderosa Pink. This is an old ancient heirloom. Then we've got our black tomatoes, black cherries, which are our favorites.
Our favorite. This is if you guys don't grow this one, it's amazing. Right.
Black cherries, fantastic. Definitely the black purple tomatoes. They tend to have a smoky, complex, sometimes some people even say umami flavor. It's It's unlike any tomato flavor.
It's great. Like the Cherokee purples, they have a very good, it's just wonderful. I always like to add it to my things, and I think they're one of my favorites.
Yeah, a little bit more mild. The reds and the pinks have more acidity. That this is as in flavor complex with flavor, you're gonna have a more acidic tomato when you have the reds and pinks. And then if you're looking for a more mild tomato flavor, the yellow is much less acidic. These are usually better for kids. When I was a kid, I certainly didn't like the acidic tomatoes. So the yellows are a little bit more palatable for kids.
I like to sometimes even, because if you get a lot of yellow ones, just for fun, I'll make like homemade, like natural salsa. Just you're gonna eat fresh out of the yellow.
Yeah.
And I do it with some peppers, and it's really good.
And just a tip for when you're canning, you want to go for the more red tomatoes because they're more acidic, so they're a little bit safer for canning. You can can the yellows, but if you really want to be erring on the side of safety, go for the reds. And then, speaking of canning, we have our giant,
look at that,
Jersey Devil tomato. So this is very few seeds, small seed cavity, lots of meat to this one, and that's what makes a good canning tomato.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people, you're so used to getting maybe a plain old Roma tomato. You know, think outside the box. There's so many different varieties, like we were saying before, there's thousands of them to pick from. And look at this guy.
Yeah.
You don't need as many.
Yep, there's actually canning tomatoes coming, you've got the long slender ones, but then even the Italian type canning tomatoes, the sauce tomatoes, they're ruffled, they look like an accordion. Lots of flesh, very few seeds, and that's what makes a really good canning tomato, is lots of flesh and few seeds.
Tomato paste is great with these too.
Yep, great for tomato paste. Yeah. So we're here in our test greenhouse. At Baker Creek, we like to make sure and taste test and grow test everything before we bring it out to the public. So we do quite a bit of taste testing. This is where we tried our first Brad's Atomic Grape Tomato just a few years ago when these came out. These are a new variety. And they are,
oh my gosh, there's nothing like homegrown tomatoes.
This is the epitome of an heirloom tomato. It's balanced, it's got acidity, but it's sweet. It's so unconventional looking. This is not what you find in your grocery store. And what I love about Brad's Atomic Grape is that through our growing trials, we've discovered that this is incredibly crack resistant and easy to grow. It's very vigorous and it's extremely high yielding. These are the kinds of notes that we take here at Baker Creek to make sure that we have just the very best tomatoes to offer and very best everything. So I'm so glad you guys are here checking out what we do and how we trial.
I know I planted some of these, and so I'm looking forward for them to get ripe.
And we have a bit of a jump on the season because we're in a greenhouse here, so we've got tomatoes typically before we will have them in the field, we'll have them in the greenhouse.
So if it's possible for you to have a greenhouse on your homestead or where you're at, it's a good idea to probably get one. You can start your plants earlier and let them go deeper into the growing season. Also, tomatoes love the heat, so that's why a lot of tomato producers always have greenhouses. They call them hot houses, and that's for the reason that it really helps turn them on and get the most production out of your tomato plants.
That's why we're not tomatoes, because we would be sweltering, right?
Absolutely, they love the heat.
Yeah, and so now we're going to talk a little bit about the nutrition value in tomatoes.
Yeah, tomatoes have something called lycopene, which is a major super antioxidant. And lycopene is something that you can get from a lot of different types of foods, but especially you get the most lycopene from a tomato, and you get it when you cook it. It totally enhances it. A lot of things we talk about eating raw fruits
foods
and vegetables.
It's the complete opposite with tomatoes.
But with tomatoes, when you cook them, it's like boom. I mean, you get so much more lycopene by making your pasta sauces, and then when you're cooking your tomatoes, doing them. So that is the way it's going to totally enhance it.
Which is perfect, because who doesn't love their tomatoes with some really good quality olive oil?
Yeah.
The lycopene binds with the fat and it makes it able to be taken up by your body. So don't forget, have some good quality olive oil with your tomatoes. It's going to bind beautifully. So good for you.
Right. Extra virgin olive oil.
Yes.
Definitely. Or, you know, if you guys want to use some butter or some ghee or something like that, that would work. Some type of fat, if you eat it with some type of fat. Avocados, I mean, all that, if you just add that with it, it'll really definitely help you absorb it better.
So we hope you guys like the tips around the greenhouse as far as the tomato plants go. My wife and myself, we live in the Midwest in a log cabin, in case you're new to our channel, or you might be seeing us on Facebook with rareseeds.com. We have a YouTube channel called Off Grid with Doug and Stacy, where we share our adventures of living in a log cabin with no solar power in the Midwest. And we grow our own food, and we have gravity-fed water systems and the whole bunch of stuff like that. We're very sustainable, you know, last big word these days, but that's what we decided to do when we left the city. So we appreciate you taking the time to show us around the place.
Yeah, Shan, thanks.
Yep, and check us out at rareseeds.com or on Facebook at Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds.
That's it. So we'll see you guys on the next video, and thanks for watching.
Keep growing those tomatoes.
Woo!
Hey guys, thanks for watching our video. You might want to check out these videos.
And if you want to become a homestead homie, click the picture of us below.
We will see you tomorrow.